One of the reasons I've always wanted to go to Israel is I grew up in a very small community with a very small Jewish population, and you might say it's kind of comparable to the Jewish population in the world. I know Ken said there's 3.5 billion people in Western civilization, but there's what, 6 or 7 billion people on the earth? Something like that. And how many Jews are there in the world? 14 million? I mean, you're outnumbered in a big way. And in Utica, unlike New York City, we have a small population, my region, a very small population of Jewish people. But my life was changed when I was very young by a woman who was she was a Holocaust survivor, and both of her parents were killed in the Holocaust. And she and her brother managed to escape and eventually get to my hometown, New Hartford, New York. And her name was Helen Sperling, and she died a few years ago at the age of about 95. And she was a tiny little woman who spent her entire life telling the story of the Holocaust. And I remember when we always had Helen's, I think it was 4th, 5th grade, 6th grade, I think. And it was so moving because as a young person, you really don't learn that much about that in school, and which is why I'm going to come back to this and kind of tie in with what Ken said really quickly. And, Helen always had a phrase, and she said, "Thou shalt not be a bystander." And that was her phrase, and we must always tell the story. Don't sit and wait and let somebody else tell that story for you. And about 30 years later, when my son went to live across the street from the house I grew up in, not many people can say that, and my son went to school, and one day he came home and he said, "Mom, I met this amazing woman. She's a Holocaust survivor, and she told the story of the Holocaust, and she said, 'Thou shalt not be a bystander.'" And this same woman, her son actually was in my 2 years ahead of me in high school, told this story, and she spoke everywhere and as much as she could. And in 2012, I was actually in the State Assembly with my colleague Nicole Maliotakis, and I spoke at Boise State. And every year, I had to always go after Helen, which is like you don't want to follow a Holocaust survivor because she's so compelling, and then all of a sudden, what am I going to talk about? She's talking about one of the most horrific experiences in human history, and here I am trying to talk about, to students. But Helen got pretty modern, so in 2012, she gave me she decided to come up with one of her rubber bands. So this is the same band that she gave me in 2012. So I've always been inspired by Holocaust survivor stories. They're amazing. I mean, just people who have survived. And so I keep Helen in my mind a lot when I think about when I'm fighting for rights and looking, especially being able to be here and see what the Jewish people have fought for. But we are seeing a real challenge to our form of government. And Ken's not, this is very serious. When he talks about leftists, we talk about a choice. It's a choice between preserving our constitutional republic, our ability to be self-governing in the United States, our freedom, the tolerance that you see in Israel, where I'm sure if the Palestinian Authority were in charge, you would not be seeing the same kind of rules in place as we witnessed in the last few days. But another thing, I'm a member of a group called it's called the Center for Freedom and Western Civilization at Colgate University, which is my alma mater. It's a conservative think tank which is under fire now by the left because we can't use the term Western civilization. So, but Western civilization, unbeknownst to these people, includes everything. It includes, German philosophy. It includes Marxism. It includes socialism. It includes all those things. And so, the left and the I don't know what you want to call the people that are challenging us. They're trying to stop. Crazy is a good word. They're trying to stop our First Amendment rights. And one thing I've noticed, and just so much in Israel. You are so concerned about maintaining your biblical faith and also maintaining your reverence for First Amendment rights. And I think that's really what they're trying to do. And I'm looking at Ken's map. And, my little city that has a very small number of Jewish people, in the last 25 years, because we've become a refugee community, we have gone from 0 to 7 mosques in just 25 years. And so most of the people that are there are doing really well, but we have some issues already. And that's why you're seeing the kinds of people that you're seeing in Congress. You're seeing Ilhan Omar, who doesn't respect the United States. We question whether, is she really, did she lawfully become a citizen? You see these comments coming from Rashida Tlaib, and you see Nancy Pelosi now. While the president is standing up for Americans and American citizens, she's condemning Americans for standing up for Americanism, and condemning the president, calling him racist, which is the age-old, when you can't win an argument, call somebody a racist. And I know what that's like. I've had $34 million spent against me to call me a racist, and just about everything on the planet. And when the truth be told is, we have a casino in our region, and I've stood up against this casino kingpin who claims to be, one of the Oneida Indians, but I've proven that he's not. I think he's probably has some Native American descent, but not from the tribe that is Aboriginal from our area. And I have represented for free for over 10 years, and I finally had to give it up in Congress, a full-blooded Native American and his family who are trying to protect their land from being taken forcefully by a casino interest, which is supported by he has been supported by Washington lobbyists, casino interests, and you name it. So the struggle is real, and we are losing in our own federal government on this fight. And I've done it for free, while this guy is able to use taxpayer dollars to spend about $10,000 a month to call me a racist, when I actually represent the real Oneida Indians for free. So I get the struggle, and I know that a lot of that was referenced. If any of you were, again, I urge you, if you have the opportunity, to go to Jeremy's farm. But I just wanted to close with this, is that in this struggle, I've gotten to meet some really incredible people, and Israel just reminds me of all those things. You're a tiny country, but almost everything affects you. Everything, I know we were looking at the map when we were standing in front of the old city, and someone on the trip commented, this is where the whole world, all the crisis in the world revolves around this very small country. And so I want to bring that back to how important it is to elect really good people to office, because Americans are jaded.